Coke vs. Pepsi, Trek vs. Wars, Mario vs. Sonic. Sonic. A feud that spanned the 90s only for Nintendo to ultimately triumph, with the speedy Hedgehog having to face the shame of seeing his own games on his opponent's consoles. So, how did Sonic manage to get the last big screen laugh over Mario and go on to break the video game movie curse?
I was not expecting that.
Let's take a look in this episode of Awfully Great. The year is 1993 and Super Nintendo is life. You've saved up just enough money to go see Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles 3 with your friends, and more importantly, to see the hyped up trailer for the upcoming Super Mario Bros. Movie. Ever since you first read about the new film in Nintendo Power, you've been waiting for this moment.
The princess.
Where's the rock?
The plumbers took it.
Plumbers. You know, for kids.
While Super Mario Bros. The game was primarily designed for kids, Super Mario Bros. The movie was not. In fact, the film's weirdly adult tone can be traced all the way back to its initial concept pitch. In 1990, producer Roland Joffe approached Nintendo of Japan with a novel idea. The first live-action video game feature adaptation, which would be based on the company's hit 1985 platformer, but with a more mature, action-oriented tone to attract a wider blockbuster demographic. For Super Mario Bros., its intended older audience would eventually become one of the reasons for its failure at the box office. 26 years later, Sonic the Hedgehog seems to have learned from the mistakes of its predecessor. First-time director Jeff Fowler and screenwriters Patrick Casey and Josh Miller smartly chose to introduce Sonic to a new generation with a buddy road movie that reflects the values of its audience: friendship, speed, and explosions. Sonic himself is played with an impatient kid-like quality by Ben Schwartz, making him surprisingly human and relatable for a CGI hedgehog.
If I could find a way to bring the energy of being a little kid and like show, oh my god, we can do this, we can do this. I was like, if I could do that, I think then people will really connect with him a bit more and almost be like, oh, it happens to be a kid that looks like, you know what I mean?
After Roland Joffe secured the rights to Mario from Nintendo, a long, tortured script development process began. Oscar-winning screenwriter Barry Morrow was hired to write a first draft, which featured Mario and Luigi on an existential road trip that resembled the story of Morrow's 1988 film Rain Man, so much so that it was nicknamed Drain Man by the production staff.
Yeah, playing Rain Man. You? You're the Rain Man?
In a 1992 interview about the movie with the LA Times, Joffe explained, "We made some mistakes. We tried some various avenues that didn't work, that came up too medieval or somehow wasn't the right thing. I felt the project was taking a wrong turn, and that's when I began thinking of Max Headroom."
Where does all this stuff come from, Bryce?
The components of Carter's mind.
Max.
Joffe was a fan of the cult British TV show and hired two of its creators, the merry directing team Annabelle Jankel and Rocky Morton, to come up with their own take on Super Mario Bros. The result? A high-concept, trans-dimensional adventure that failed to connect with both young and adult audiences. Like Mario, Sonic also takes place in the real world and takes great artistic license to justify its premise. Robotnik works for the government, Sonic has a non-canon owl mentor, and rings are depicted as vague telepathic teleportation devices. Still, the movie succeeds by staying loyal to the identity of its main character.
You had never seen a personality like that in video games. I mean, there's that sort of iconic moment in the game where if you don't press any buttons, the character literally, I mean, Sonic breaks the fourth wall, looks at you, does a little toe tap, looks at his watch, and is basically saying, "Come on, buddy, like, what are we doing?"
In a world where every IP character needs a cute baby counterpart, yes, even Sonic the Hedgehog delivers. The filmmakers of Super Mario Bros., however, ensured that absolutely none of the game's cuteness reached audiences, with the exception of an animatronic Yoshi who just ends up getting kicked and stabbed anyway. Sorry, Yoshi. After bringing on Jankel and Morton to direct Super Mario Bros., Joffe found himself having a hard time attracting A-list talent to the project. His top two choices for King Koopa, Arnold Schwarzenegger and Michael Keaton, both passed on the role, leaving Joffe with his third choice, Dennis Hopper.
I made a picture called Super Mario Brothers, and my six-year-old son at the time, he's now 18, at the time he said, Dad, I think you're probably a pretty good actor, but why did you play that terrible guy, King Koopa, in the Super Mario Brothers? And I said, well, Henry, I did that so you could have shoes. And he said, Dad, I don't need shoes that bad.
While young Nintendo fans were used to Koopa doing things like kidnapping Princess Peach and taking over the White House,
Attention, America!
Hopper's take on Koopa came off as violent and psychotic.
Excuse me, that hardly seems logical, does it? Perhaps we should stay and formulate our own strategy. Tete-a-tete. Inner circle, that sort of thing.
Here's what's logical to me. If you do not return with the plumbers and the rock, I shall personally kill you.
We're going. After you.
If you do not return with the plumbers and the rock, I shall personally kill you.
By comparison, Jim Carrey's Dr. Robotnik is downright goofy, though a bit more fitting for a property with its own cartoon and toy line. I imagine that accurately recreating Robotnik's look from any of the Sonic games would be jarring in live action, so it's a good thing Carrey is doing his own thing with the character, who almost comes off as a sadder but wiser Edward Nygma from Batman Forever.
I'm smarter. I'm a genius. No, several geniuses.
In a sequentially ranked hierarchy based on level of critical importance, the disparity between us is too vast to quantify.
Most of all, Carrey appears to be genuinely having fun, once again embracing his role as a family comedy icon.
Honestly, I'm so gratified by that kind of stuff. Like, I have people coming up to me going, I just literally was the Mask on Halloween, or new filmmakers that have just broken through that are going like, I started because of Dumb and Dumber or whatever. But like, it's really fun when you see like a little kid dressed up as the Grinch or something like that, or they come up to me in the street and, you know, their parent says, you know who that is? That's the Grinch. And I go, I must find a way to stop Christmas from coming.
Differences aside, Hopper and Carrey seem to have one major thing in common. They both subscribe to the Al Pacino, Dick Tracy method of acting, where any resemblance to a source character is replaced with lots and lots of shouting.
I'll kill that plumber! No! It's wrong! It's off! It's wrong!
Hollywood rarely ever admits when it's made a mistake. And even when it tries to fix the damage, there's still no guarantee audiences will be forgiving. Years after finishing Super Mario Bros., John Leguizamo confessed that working on the production was so horrible that he often drank whiskey in between takes. The late, legendary Bob Hoskins expressed his loathing of the movie to The Guardian multiple times, referring to it as the biggest disappointment of his career. Considering how many people regretted working on Super Mario Bros., it's kind of a miracle it made it to theaters at all. Although Roland Joffe succeeded in making a video game movie with grit and ambition, it came off as a heartless cash grab to both Mario fans and the movie-going public.
Now, this movie wasn't imagined correctly at the outset. They didn't start out with a vision of what it was going to be even before they did everything else. And so you look at the movie and you see millions of dollars on the screen of special effects and all of those customized cars and that other world that they've created and everything else, and it doesn't add up to anything.
With the failure of Super Mario Bros. Came the era of the video game movie curse. A string of flopped adaptations that, with a few exceptions, prove that games don't make successful films.
Now in entertainment news, Sonic the Hedgehog can't be beat. He can't be. No, number one at the box office again. I had the chance, McKenna and I went and saw it on Friday. And kind of loved it.
Nearly 3 decades later, it appears that Sonic the Hedgehog has finally broken that curse. Though it did take an intense fan backlash and a total character redesign to get there.
Sonic the Hedgehog's human teeth is a good reminder that there is truly no God.
The filmmakers and main cast seem to have a sincere fondness for the source material, which elevates the movie as a whole.
When we're in the booth, even beforehand with a table read, if I had punches, if I had pitches, I could say and do whatever I want. Because for me, it doesn't cost them extra money. We're not rolling cameras, I'm in a booth, you know what I mean? So we could do whatever we wanted. So, and I also, just because I really cared about this movie, I would even say, hey, if I had an ADR session, can I come in an hour early, watch whatever we've done in the past, just in case I can think of any new jokes? And he would be like, of course, yeah, you want to make it funnier? Yes. So I came in a couple times, saw the movie myself, just so I can keep punching myself up, which I thought he gave us such a leash to be creative and to be wonderful, and I think it really shows in the film.
Oh, yeah!
On February 1st, 2018, Nintendo announced their partnership with Illumination to produce an all-new animated Super Mario Bros. Feature. Though Illumination CEO Chris Meledandri hasn't released any details, he has confirmed Mario creator Shigeru Miyamoto's involvement in the film, a good sign that Nintendo has learned its lesson from the video game movie curse. No matter what happens, die-hard fans of the 1993 original will always have Stephen Applebaum and Ryan Haas's amazing sequel comic, and great fan resources like the Super Mario Bros. Archive.
Gotta go fast.
Given everything Sonic went through, I think Jeff Fowler and his team deserve to be recognized for listening to the fans and trying their best to give them what they want. Something that doesn't happen every day in our world of soft reboots, hard reboots, prequels, and sequels. After all, who knows just how close Sonic came to a live-action fate like Mario's? Until next time, thank you for watching, and be sure to subscribe for more awful greatness.
Meow?